In a world filled with fleeting moments and inevitable change, the story of Kisa Gotami stands as a powerful tale from ancient India, carrying a timeless message of acceptance, letting go, and finding inner peace. It's a story about the inevitability of suffering and how one woman's journey led her to the path of enlightenment under the guidance of the Buddha. Kisa Gotami was a young woman living in ancient India, known for her gentle nature and frail appearance. She came from a poor family and was often ridiculed because of her small stature. Despite the difficulties in her early life, Kisa married into a well-known and respected family. Her life seemed to be turning around, especially when she gave birth to a son who became the light of her life. Kisa's world revolved around her child, and her days were filled with joy as she watched him grow. However, this happiness was not to last. When the boy was just a toddler, he suddenly fell ill and died. The loss was devastating, and Kisa's grief was so overwhelming that she could not accept his death. She clung to the small body of her son, unable to let go, convinced that there must be a way to bring him back to life. Desperate for a cure, Kisa wandered from house to house in her village, carrying her son's lifeless body in her arms. She begged everyone she met for medicine that could heal her child and restore him to life. But no one could offer help. Some looked at her with pity, while others tried to explain that death is a natural part of life. Yet Kisa refused to accept it. The agony of losing her only son had consumed her, and she continued her search, hoping against hope that someone would have the answer. After a long and exhausting journey, Kisa came across a wise man who saw her despair and felt compassion for her. He suggested that she visit the Buddha, who was nearby, saying that if anyone could help her, it would be him. With a glimmer of hope, Kisa set out to find the Buddha. Still clutching her son's body. When she finally found the Buddha, Kisa fell at his feet and pleaded for him to revive her child. She told him of her desperate search, her refusal to accept her son's death, and her need for a cure. The Buddha listened patiently to her story, and then, after a moment of silence, spoke gently. There is indeed a way to bring your child back to life. But first, you must bring me a mustard seed from a household that has never known death. Kisa's heart leapt with hope, and she quickly set off to find the mustard seed, believing that this was the cure she had been seeking. She went to the first house she saw and asked for a mustard seed, explaining the Buddha's condition that it must come from a family untouched by death. The household was willing to give her the mustard seed. But when she asked whether they had ever experienced a loss, they sadly admitted that they had recently lost a loved one. She visited house after house, always receiving the same response. Every family had suffered the loss of a parent, a child, a spouse, or a friend. As Kisa continued her search, she began to realize the profound truth in the Buddha's request. Death, she discovered, was not a unique tragedy reserved for her alone, but a shared experience that touched all lives. Grief and loss were inescapable parts of the human condition. Gradually, Kisa's understanding deepened. Her search for a family without loss became a journey of self-discovery. She saw that the suffering she felt was universal, and that death was an inevitable part of life for everyone. The reality of impermanence, of everything changing and passing away, was clearer to her with each door she knocked upon. With a heavy yet enlightened heart, Kisa returned to the Buddha. She no longer carried her son's body with her. Her frantic hope had given way to acceptance. She bowed before the Buddha, who could see that she had come to understand the true nature of life. The Buddha spoke to her with compassion, explaining, "Kisa, you are not alone in your grief. The living are few, but the dead are many. Knowing this, one should not cling to that which is temporary. For everything that arises will also pass away." Kisa's sorrow had transformed. She saw the wisdom in letting go, not as a way of abandoning love, but as a path to finding peace. The Buddha's teachings helped her understand that clinging to the past and refusing to accept the reality of death only brought more suffering. Letting go was the key to releasing the burden of her grief. Moved by the Buddha's teachings, Kisa chose to become one of his disciples. She joined the Buddhist community and devoted herself to the path of enlightenment, eventually attaining a deep spiritual insight. She became known for her wisdom and compassion, sharing her experiences with others who were grieving and guiding them toward acceptance and peace. Kisa Gotami's story is a poignant reminder of the inevitability of loss and the importance of letting go. Her journey from despair to acceptance illustrates the Buddha's profound teaching on impermanence. It is not by resisting the reality of change, but by embracing it, that one can find true liberation from suffering. Through Kisa's story, we learn that life is fleeting, and that peace can be found by acknowledging this truth and letting go of our attachments.